Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Telemedicine Talks. As always, Phoebe Gutierrez, your host, your co host, Leo Damasco. And dude, we are super stoked to have a great guest today. We've been talking about this for months now, but now it's finally happened. Dany Accilien. Awesome name. We were just talking about that too. No, this guy is amazing. He's a board certified emergency medicine doc, healthcare leader, working in a lot of different things: clinical care, innovations, operations. He is the CMO of Rely MD, vice president of AI and innovation at Apollo MD, the director of Apollo MD's administrative fellowship program. He's also passing down the knowledge affiliated with Wellstar and help train future docs through the Wellstar Kenestone M residency program. Dude, what don't you do other than being freaking cool? And folks, if you don't turn on the video, don't look at the video. This is the episode to turn on your video. Just heads up. But yeah, so thank you for taking your time and gracing us with your presence, man. We just wanted to talk about you and how you're doing and hopefully learn from you, and which is, I think, the biggest thing that we do on this podcast. Thanks for being here, man.
No, extremely excited to be here. Phoebe, Leo, love you guys. Been knowing you guys for a long time. So I'm excited that you guys are working together. Anything I could do, I'm excited to be on the podcast and just be able to get some stuff out there. Just really just talk, to be honest. So anything I can help with, I'm game for. So I'm excited to learn from you guys. Honestly, I might ask you guys a couple questions.
That's not how this works.
Right. No, we learn from you.
We'll take a little bit from you guys.
So, we like to start though with this one question.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, is this where you saw yourself? Is this what you wanted to be? Did you want to be a super awesome doctor that does everything?
Oh man, no, because when I was very little, so I was born in Haiti and then
Oh,
started school over there before I came to the US. And there's not really a lot of doctors hanging around over there.
no, man.
So before that, it's going in between the city and the farm and things like that. So it didn't really have a lot of healthcare stuff around me. Because when I was in the States, my mom she was working like 3 jobs,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
whole hey, come into the States with us type of thing. And one of it was like a home health aide.
Yeah.
And that was like the first foray into healthcare that at least was peripherally aware of, but not really. And eventually going into like high school and college, I was interested in like exercise physiology. I started off in
Yeah.
biomedical engineering and I flipped over into exercise phys. So I was still in that healthcare space. Then I started doing mission trips and stuff like that. And then I was in college and I was like, hey, I think this would be a good fit. I really just liked education, I think was the
Yeah.
biggest thing. I liked learning and I liked teaching people. Like my first job was a tutor. Oddly enough, doctor means like to teach. So I ended up probably exactly where I should be at the point. So I just continuously like to do that. So I guess I eventually got into that space, but it definitely wasn't anything. What I'm doing now is not what I thought. I had no idea what I
Yeah.
was just like doing everything. And then eventually just found a path by just trying things out. Yeah.
What an amazing story. I didn't know. So how old were you when you moved over and the whole transition?
Oddly enough, so when I first came over, I was real little,
Yeah.
around 2. And then we moved into, I hope people from Jersey aren't listening to this, but we moved to Jersey and Newark around East Orange. And it was so bad that my mom was like, hey, I'm going to stay here and work. You go back to Haiti, better in Haiti, and go to school over there. So then I stayed over there and did school. And then until I was like between 6 to 10, like coming back and forth,
Yeah.
doing a lot of that. And then by the time I was going and headed into like late elementary school, going into middle school, that's when I started staying permanently in the US and then would just go back every summer back to the States because most of my family was still there. Most of my family's still pretty much there. Tons of cousins and all that. My mom and my sister, my uncle, and then aunt are over here, but most everybody else is still back there.
What a freaking great story. No, it's amazing. I'm like first generation too and moved over. No, I get it.
So really, I had 3 options. What am I? An engineer, a lawyer, or a doctor? That's it. That's all you get.
But it's funny you're doing all 3. That
That's
is
fun.
exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm dabbling in all 3 spheres at this point. So, yeah, fascinating thing about.
Yeah, and you're doing it so well. I think from the doctor side, you see a lot of people just sticking to the clinical side, right? And I think historically, that's where we got stuck, right? The historic kind of pathway of being a doctor, right, is you go to school, you learn clinical stuff, you do clinical stuff for 20, 25 years, and you retire clinician. People are seeing still patients 65, 70, 75. They die in the hospital. But you've learned it early on in your career that, hey, there's a lot more to my degree and my experiences. What other things are you doing? What other things are you dabbling in? And I'm gonna preface this by when I'm, like, talking about my telemedicine stuff, you're, like, on my speed dial. "Hey, what about the ZMR? What about this? What about that?" So, can you tell people how you're branching out and how that's become a success for you?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where to start. We can go into the telemedicine space in particular. So I did my training at University of Chicago for EM. So shout out to UFC. And then that was awesome. And during then, I actually got in touch with an AI company there that was like budding called Ian. And what they were doing is they were trying to take likelihood ratios and use AI algorithms to be able to turn that into like probabilistic determinations of conditions for like
Mhm.
clinical conditions. And I thought that was awesome because I really liked math. And I was like, hey, maybe I could work with you guys. And I took a condition for like chest pain and I was like, hey, these are what I think the probabilities are based off of my experience. Maybe you could convert this like gut feeling that I have into like math. And it was working. So I was like, hey, this like AI space in terms of predictive probabilities was like awesome. So I stayed with that group as well too. And I've continued with them just fleshing that out on the chest pain pathways and being able to do rule out strategies and things like that. But then when I came down here, I started working with Apollo MD, and then they had the telemedicine platform that was adjacent to it as like a sister company called RelyMD that you had mentioned earlier. And what I noticed on that platform was a couple of things. One, like the people were awesome. And I think companies are just people and they just piece them together. I know that's changing to some degree with the whole AI stuff. Really, it is just still people. People were awesome and they were very motivated. And then the platform that they had was very modular and it was very forward thinking where I can like mold it and pivot it towards certain directions. So it was doing the traditional thing about, hey, employer based, virtual urgent care, that type of stuff. And one of the bigger things that I made a point of focus for with the group, and we tried to steer it towards saying, hey, we have a bunch of emergency medicine docs here. So what are the core capabilities that we already have? Can we leverage that and then do something a little bit different in healthcare? And the main target that we ended up with was like a great partner called GMR, who's like Global Medical Response, and they run a lot of EMS
Yeah,
organizations.
yeah.
They're the biggest EMS organization. And we started doing 911 diversions. So Dave, who's calling 911 for dental pain, traditionally the ambulance has to go out there, check you out, check Dave out, and then go, hey man, probably don't need to come here. But sometimes they do bring you via ambulance
Yeah.
and dump you off in front of me after dental pain. So now it just gets routed over to us. On the other side, it's just Dave gets routed to me. He's like, hey doc, like I got dental pain. He's like, I flip on the video, look, it's like, all right, you got a little dental fracture or dental caries. And then I just go through that process and say, hey, here's what you got to do. Go talk to the dentist. That here's meds for the next like few days that you'll need, antibiotics if needed, prevent infections, things like that. And then in 2, 3 minutes, it's like, all right, click, hang up. And then now the guy's sitting at home and then he gets his meds sent over to him. So we leaned into that model. And with that, the longer I stayed in it, I just kept trying to find ways to make the entire process easier, which
Mhm.
is how we started stumbling into the whole AI note generation,
Yeah.
which ambient scribing has taken over and all that stuff. And so we just embedded that into the platform. And I just worked for a few months on being able to build that out. And then that just turned out really well to the point where we're going to essentially take that and eventually do something else with it for the ambient scribing, and then just be able to take those pieces that are already modular and just launch different facets where we think we can differentiate ourselves on the platform for it to be like a physician centered marketplace. So you can sell yourself, because I see that becoming a thing in the future where branding yourself is going to be essential, whether you are a
Need,
doctor or
right?
anything else, right? So, because the skill sets are like getting muddied now. So, if you can't do any type of personal branding, it's going to be real difficult for you to build up a career. And I want that to be a space where clinicians can do that. They can come on there and do all sorts of things. They can do EMS diversion. They can do asynchronous care. They can provide services for women's health, longevity medicine, whatever they want to do. You could set your rates. You can do whatever you need to do and pretty much control that space. And we just provide the platform for you to do it and just try to make it as easy as possible, because we don't know a lot of those things. So hopefully I can make that pathway a lot smoother for folks in the future. But that's what we're working on the telemedicine side. At least
Now,
that's one piece, one big piece.
and you've walked me through it. And honestly, all the docs that work on it, I've worked with other platforms too. And they're like, why can't you just use what Rely does?
You've told me that so many
Right.
times. I do.
It's everybody that's worked on Rely that works in another platform. They're like, this other one sucks. It's amazing though. And it's such a good concept, right? And what I love about it too, it's precision focused, right?
Yeah.
It's so usable, right?
Yeah.
And
You
you
gotta
look
make it
like,
easy.
right. And it's not like Epic, Cerner, and all the big ones, right? Those ones were based off of coding and billing, right?
Yep. Yep.
IC10 EM code first. And this
Yeah.
one really is function first.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's
yeah,
what we've been gearing towards. No, that's a great way of putting it. Function first. Like every little thing I go, why do I need to do this extra button? Because I
yeah,
don't anymore. So
yeah,
just eliminate it. And it's so much easier being able to see it from like our side. I think is within emergency medicine, we tend to be able to see so many facets of healthcare. But I think I was talking to someone yesterday. Oh, one of our developers actually.
yeah.
And he was just asking about the job. And then I was talking to him about someone else, and I was telling him what that person's characteristics were so that he can be a better coach to that person.
Yeah.
And I was just like rambling on about, hey, he likes to do this, or he'll do a little twitch like this. And he's like, why do you know these things? And then I was thinking about it, and I remember telling him in the ER, within 2 minutes, you have to get somebody to trust you with their entire life. So
Yeah.
you have to notice, is this person an anxious person? Is this person very stern? Is this person very direct? Like, how do they like receiving information? Do they want you to sit down? Are they hard of hearing? Do they have a little twitch and a very subtle thing that's making you think they are nervous? Is there like a bead of sweat going down? And then you're thinking, okay, they're actually diaphoretic, but they don't. Do they look confused? The whole sick versus not sick. You got to do that super quick. And I think that translates well into being able to identify that in people, to be able to lead them and just understand little quirks and how they like to be interacted with and not. And I hadn't thought about that until I was talking with him yesterday about that. And I was like, I think that probably allows people within emergency medicine, doctors overall, but for us in particular, because we just have to do it with so many different people in the ER all the time and very quickly.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think it just develops an interesting skill set to be able to like lead a group of people.
Hey, I think the interesting thing though is you've unconsciously identified that, right? Because
Mm.
honestly, there are some ER doctors that just
Oh
don't
yeah, yeah,
have that skill.
that's
Man,
true.
it could slap them across the face and you're like, what? But no, and it goes to show the personality needed to do what you do. And it's just, you pick up on things so fast. You're able to read so fast and you're able to read the room, right? And honestly, that's what makes a leader.
Yeah,
It's you are able to basically adjust yourself to be the most effective person that you are when presenting to whoever your audience is.
yeah,
When I've seen a lot of leaders across the way, and go back to my military side, seen some really good ones. I've seen some really crappy ones, and the good ones share that personality trait. They really do. So that's amazing. Sorry,
yeah, man.
Phoebe, I'm like monopolizing this. I know you have a question.
I don't ever get to talk. I don't ever get to talk.
But when compliance stuff, then I'm like, I'm stuck
Baby.
Googling things, and I'm like, what the hell is she saying?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think one of the things I've observed over the course of my career, over even just the past, I don't know, year, And one thing that I think
Mhm.
is really interesting, and as you're talking, it made me think about it a little bit, is when you're forced into these situations where you have to, it's like rapid, you're doing a lot of different things that are similar but are very different. That's how consulting is. So it's funny because I've gotten to work with 200 clinics versus just staying at 6 companies. I get to very quickly, like very quick, get like instant validation. That's going to work. That's not going to work. That's going to work. And you slowly in your head start to piece together, I don't know, like trends in terms of
Yeah.
how you would, in your mind, how to build kind of the ideal thing, which again is you're talking and it's so much focused on product operations. That really is what it is. And
Mhm.
a lot of it has to do with the trial and error, but also just like rapidly, constantly testing and then constantly being open to that growth and the iteration, which most people like stray away from. It's interesting. It's like in the serial entrepreneur loves it. I have to constantly make this thing better, even if it's painful right now.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah,
super interesting.
not everybody can do it. And honestly, not a lot of docs. We're not trained to do that. It's that is not class in medical school. So,
I think
yeah,
sometimes it's a little bit embedded in like your, and again, I don't know. I don't know. I came from a family of serial entrepreneurs, but both, I'm not first generation, but my dad was born in Germany and born and raised, and like my grandma worked her butt off and was in home health. And for
Mhm.
me, I just learned in healthcare, it's this constant thing where like you're never really the expert, you're always evolving.
Yeah,
And
that's
so to
true.
me, it also just correlates to that. I think everyone, interestingly enough, it's like as Danny's talking, it's like your eyes are getting like, you like the change, you like the AI, you like the constant learning of things.
Did, for both of you guys, did your families, were you, I don't know, were their jobs and their roles very visible to you guys as growing up? Like in terms of whether or not they were in healthcare or outside of healthcare or just in business or entrepreneurship, were they taking risks and was that visible to you? I've always thought about that for certain people that I run into, of like how they even, there's not many people doing what you guys are doing.
it's a
Like
good question.
this is a risk in and of
Yeah.
itself.
I
Like,
mean,
were you guys able to see that?
I can say like very clearly, like I came from a very strong female entrepreneurial family. And even as I look back, like today, like I was probably the only one with a traditional job. Like my brother has his own business, my sister has her own business. Like everybody's in, at least in my family, it was very visible that they were doing their own thing. But that was normal. It wasn't like the idea of you have to go get like your normal job. Yeah. So to me, it was more of we had a restaurant. So it wasn't like we had some crazy health tech. We had the oldest restaurant in Sacramento, actually. I don't know.
Yeah,
What up?
that's dope.
No,
That's
it was the
crazy.
oldest. Google it. Google it.
Is
That's
it still there?
crazy.
Espanol. No, we went out of business during COVID, but luckily my grandma got to
Oh
retire, so it
no.
was a good thing.
Oh,
To me, it's like I come from a very like operational family where it's funny. I'll go out to dinner with my grandma and she's like talking all this crap about that busboy should have been here asking if I needed more water and
oh no,
like
not
like
grandma.
very much like, I'm gonna give them some feedback.
Hey,
Like to me, I just was always raised, here's how you can structure it and you can make it work for whatever business you want to launch, whether it's a construction company or a restaurant or a home health. Like to me, they just showed me that it was possible. And I personally, as I grew up, I didn't think they pushed it hard enough. Like my restaurant, like we had the best soup, like the best soup in Sacramento. Like they could have gotten to groceries. Like we could have done so much more. And so for me, I almost feel like it was opposite where it's actually pushed me harder. Where like, I'm going to go take hella risks. And some of it's paid off, some of it hasn't. Like I had a rough year last year, like for
yeah,
taking risks, but at the end of the day, I can't see myself doing anything but what I'm doing.
got that.
Yeah, no, my story is a little different. Honestly, I didn't think I was gonna do this. It's honestly, I
I'm
was
still thinking about it. I'm
no,
really
it was I was super comfortable being a doctor, and I thought that was it. That was the end game. You know what I mean? And so my parents, they moved from the Philippines. I kind of story like you. They moved from the Philippines when I was young. I stayed behind in the Philippines, and I didn't move to the US until I was 5. And my
Mhm.
parents were hustling, creating a life for us. And I think that's what it was. They were just hustling. And they weren't necessarily entrepreneurs per se, but they were always looking for better. And not just for themselves. Honestly, they were the last priority. It was for us. It was for the
For you
kids.
guys.
Yeah, it was always what can we do better for the kids? Now, the family, especially my mom's side, has a history of entrepreneurship. My grandparents actually, my grandmother created a garment business in the Philippines and was making like Guess jeans. And I had some cool jeans, even though it was like lower middle class, because we got it straight from the factory. Literally picked it up from the factory floor and was like, "This is mine." But no, but they big entrepreneurship. They started from nothing and created literally a multi-billion-dollar company
That's
in the
awesome.
background. So there was always that. But again, it was always hustling for the better. So it was that. There was always that kind of tinge. Hey, what could I do better? How could I make this situation better for the fam? It's a collective. I think we all share shared kind of priorities and family priorities, knowing our backgrounds, right? It's always how can we make the collective better? I think it's that drive. And that's how I ended up where I ended up. Again, I was like, oh, I thought being an ER doc and doing that's my way of doing this. But given the opportunity of COVID and telemedicine, and now having the means and the time to do this, it just opened my mind to be like, hey, there is something better.
Something else.
And there is another way that I could help the collective.
I was listening to you guys. Like, how did you guys do this? Who was around y'all? Just me and a couple of billy goats. I don't know.
No, dude, I was raised right next to a slaughterhouse. I remember
Yeah,
seeing
that's
those
a-
animals in the
You're like,
morning.
I feel like I have an idea.
No, it's
I don't know. I get to work with like amazing people. I get to hear amazing stories. And I think for me, I am a very strong believer that you can do anything in America if you put your mind to it. And you don't need a bunch of funding. You don't need to be VC backed. You just need some sweat, a good idea, and like grit. And I'm on what, Leo, company 5 at this point.
only like you're always.
It's
Yeah.
I think
I
every
was
month
like-
you're like, hey, I have an idea. And literally the next 30 minutes, there's like a website, there's a payment method. I'm like, how the hell was
Phoebe's
that
a
set up
machine.
so fast?
nobody should have taught me to vibe code, man.
freaking amazing.
Nobody should have taught me to vibe code. But
She's a machine.
to me, I think it's just really interesting. I do have a random question for you though that I think might be a little controversial.
Oh, that's a good setup.
Vanilla or chocolate?
So like we talked to a lot of different doctors that are talking about AI and healthcare. Some really think it's amazing. Some hate it and think it's going to create Terminator Judgment Day. Like, how do you balance I don't know, maybe like consumer skepticism, maybe even like from your peers with emerging AI I'm assuming you are a very AI forward physician.
I have a heavy level of skepticism about AI. And I think if you're in the space as much as I am now, or even more, if you don't, that's a problem. Because of the fact, like, I'll take a small example and maybe branch it out. This is a good question. Ambient scribing. What ambient scribing is proposed to do is say, hey, I'm going to give you back quote unquote pajama time. And you don't have to use that much time during your shift documenting.
Yep.
You can focus in on the patient. It can do that. What it really does, it reduces cognitive burden. That's what it does. Of you having to think, did that person say left foot or right foot 3 patients ago while I ran the code? Because I had to run the code in between, and then I get back and I go, oh man. And that's what makes you fatigued. But what can happen as a result of that is now you have a dependency, and then now you lose a small piece of a skill set where you go, I just didn't listen for 30 seconds, but the AI scribe caught it. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not, but I have no idea because I blacked out. Because I thought that I knew the ambient scribe was listening, therefore maybe it caught that. So you have to actively fight against that. And I use that example because when we're thinking about implementing this stuff for new residents,
I was
I
just
go,
about
if
to
you-
ask.
yeah,
How is that a
because I
problem?
have to do that.
Yeah.
So they brought that up to say, hey, we're going to allow them to start using things like DAX. And I pushed back and I said, I don't think they should yet, because they're not even confident enough to order certain medications like high dose Tylenol yet, day one. And now I'm giving them a tool that is supposed to reduce their cognitive burden when really I should be trying to flex that as a muscle.
Yeah.
So that it can get better during residency, because that's the main muscle and the main tool that they're going to have, period. So if you reduce that, then what do you have left at that point in terms of not being able to listen or slow down enough to process some of these things? So I think there is a real risk of de-skilling in the future if people do not appropriately understand how the tool works, if they don't use it appropriately. And then if like clinicians aren't the one guiding how to use the tool in terms of on a day-to-day basis, I think you run that risk. Because here's the controversial part. LLMs and AI are just tools, and you can use tools however you want. I used to use a physical map, believe it or not. I know I look like I'm 12, but I did have a physical map at some point that we used to use. And then it became Ask Jeeves and MapQuest. And then, shout out to Ask Jeeves. There you
Yes.
go.
Okay,
That's how
Danny,
you
you
know
are
I've been around.
Right,
Look
right.
at that.
I'm like,
Look at
I
that.
know Jeeves.
See,
Yeah.
look at that. I've been around now. Then I have Google Maps. So you used to have to drive everywhere. And my sister's like this because she grew up around the same time. She's only a year and a half younger than me. She's like a savant with directions. Like she knows everywhere to go.
Yeah.
She doesn't need Google Maps. And if you bring me to most places, I should be fine. But to a certain degree, it's like now there's a heavy dependency on maps for me to go from here to Publix down the street. And I shouldn't need that, but that's just the way it is. And I can see that becoming a transformation in the future. And for better or for worse, now you'll never get lost. But there's times when Google Maps doesn't work, and then you will get lost. And then now what do you do? So we have to think about that for sure. The problem I have with AI overall is in this particular country, it's very like there's all this opportunity on all these things you can do. I always choose my words carefully here, but to be honest, it's a very selfish country. Like it's very
I'll back that.
it's self-driven in comparison to like other countries where it's very community driven.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
even just the culture. The culture is community driven outside. Over here, it's very individualistic.
Yeah.
And as a result, it becomes more profit driven. And shout out to the strategy professor for my MBA course was Rob Kazanjian. He said, and one of my favorite quotes in the MBA course said, the problem with incentives is that they work. So here you have people that used to run algorithms for infinite scrolling that are now in charge of your health algorithm, right? So it's a little bit odd of how to do that, where the incentivization isn't towards actually appropriate production within healthcare or just moving things forward for the betterment of the community, is for profitability. And when that comes into play, you can do anything at that point and it can go completely sideways. So I am very weary of the direction that it can go. I am fascinated by it. I use it all the time. Like I'm driving it forward. I'm teaching residents about it, teaching fellows about it, educating about it online, all that stuff. But the more you use it and the more you understand the space, you should have some heavy level of hesitancy about like, where is this going to go? So hopefully that kind of.
Oh, that's a lot of great points there. It's funny that you mentioned the maps thing, right? Growing up, when I learned how to drive, it was the Thomas guide, and I could go anywhere.
Yeah.
Remember that? You had the Tom, like page 45, A5, blah, blah, blah. But now I really can't get anywhere without GPS running me. And it's needed. I could see that with AI in medicine. You were talking about ambient scribing. You're also seeing tools where AI is assisting in medical management, right? Hey, suggesting MDMs, suggesting diagnoses. And to your point, where is that going to stop? And if we teach our new doctors to this tool, they're inevitably going to rely on it, and they're not going to be able to flex that muscle. They're going to rely on that tool to help them and not be able to do that. So it's a very interesting concept. And I really like your approach. It's a tool, right? It's a tool, and we have to treat it as such, and we have to always be aware that it is as such, right? And we have to be very active in making sure it doesn't replace the tool that we have been honing for years and that we've been training for.
Yeah. It's the most powerful tool that can become like an adversary that I've run across.
That's
Because it
Skynet.
could just wipe it's basically Skynet. It's
Yeah.
like, it has the potential to become that. And like, yeah, we just have to, be a little careful, a little intentional in how we approach it.
How do you see your residents looking at that? And I'm going to preface this too by, it's funny. I have a sixth grader, Sammy, I'm sorry. And one of the first like parent teacher conference, they talked about AI and then approach to AI. And they took a poll, and the majority of the sixth graders in her school were scared of AI. They had this skepticism about AI because they thought, hey, it was going to take over their learning and they weren't going to learn as well if they relied on AI. And fast forward to medical students, residents, so forth and so on. And they're beyond that, right? And they're at a
Yeah.
point now they're already burnt out. So they're trying to find shortcuts from day one, right?
Yeah.
So how do you find yourself teaching that and like ingraining that in them?
I try to teach them from the perspective of just what I mentioned before of it being a tool. And I do give them the example of, hey, you might notice that you will stop listening. And that should scare you, right? Because when you stop listening at that point, now you're not processing. And if you're not processing, then now you're potentially harming someone's life at that point. Now, can an LLM get to a point where it's so good at pattern recognition and it has so much data that it's just phenomenal and the differential's perfect and it's probably guiding you into 99.9% of the time the appropriate direction? Maybe. I have no idea. I don't know. But it's right now, it's a little bit hard to say go ahead all into that, because maybe in 10 years that's completely different, because LLMs are supposed to regress to what the average and most predictable thing is. And that might not be what you want centered around when it's like your health in the mix, where you're like, oh, that's what the average person would say. Like the most predictable thing to say next would be like this. Like you can have all of this pattern recognition and then say, okay, we have all of the data and therefore we will make the best decision. But I don't know how you can do that quickly with some of the things I mentioned before of, oh, this person is like tapping their foot and that's it. That's all you saw. And you're like, okay, that one's nervous. What are they nervous about? Oh, they lied. Like they're lying when they're telling me this. And they actually just drank 12 beers like earlier today. So an LLM telling me whether they're tachycardic because maybe they're in AFib, maybe they are having another dysrhythmia, all this stuff. And it just doesn't notice something like that. So I think I'm in the process of working with some of our team members on the faculty side of building out curriculums of how do you understand how AI works? How do you interact with it? What are the guardrails that you have to have up so you can actually embed this into their training? Because exposure is probably the biggest thing that you can do at this point, is just allowing them to interact with it as much as they can so they can see the benefits, but also the pitfalls at the same time. So I think as early as they can, get as much exposure as they can, whether that's in high school at this point, they'll be savants by the time they come in. But if it's right now just in residency training, it's just building that framework out so that they can actually start learning how to utilize those things and become comfortable with it so that they're not afraid. Yeah. I don't want them to be afraid, because that's how we get driven out of spaces, and then we don't help guide it in the appropriate direction. So I'd rather they come towards it a little bit.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see more and more physicians in the AI space, just because I'll be like honest, I always take the patient perspective and I always go back to the rules and regulations are really meant to protect people like me who like, I don't know what's true and not. If you say that you can guarantee my health to be X, Y, I'm going to trust that. I'm trusting the things that I'm reading in this app or that these things are going through. And so often you realize like a lot of these tools or technologies are developed with no physicians or like no physician oversight or kind of input. And again, it just, to me, it makes me like uncomfortable because I think people are going to get hurt. And because we don't know, we do not know. I don't even try to pretend to understand what the hell you guys were talking about 5 minutes ago, whatever, right? I have no idea. But to me, I think that's the scary part, is we do need more physicians that are in the space, but that are also a little bit more, I would say, tech forward, like really asking those questions, poking holes in some of these things and trying to make it as safeguarded as possible.
Yeah, that's how we got pushed out of administrative space. That's how we lost our
Yep.
footing in that space. And you make a great point. Both of you do. It's we need medical professionals in those spaces so we could dictate that. And you look around in these healthcare tech conferences and all that stuff. And bottom line, it wouldn't be possible without the physicians, the clinicians really implementing all this. But a lot of times it's just we're not present. We're admitted out and we are told how to do this instead of us telling us the other way around. No,
Yeah.
great points all around. But
Oh man, I got this jersey in behind me. It reminds me sometimes, and I've told our fellows this in the past, and even some of the residents. So, Co came like straight out of high school. I think Garnett and some like Howard and some other folks did. And when they were in high school, they were thinking, "I'm going to NBA to play basketball. That's it. I love it. It's awesome. It's the most fun I've ever had." And then you get in the NBA and you got to go to a press conference. You got to do contracts. You got to deal with agents. You got to do social media. You got to do this contract, meet with this person, all this other stuff. And then you realize you're actually stuck in a business. Like the entertainment business is what you're in.
Yeah.
You're not in the business of playing basketball. And it's sometimes overwhelming for folks. And I think of in the same way when we're reviewing the applicants, because right now, so they just matched. Match was this week for the residents. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at the match list and stuff. And you look at all these essays, like when I was a wee lad, I always wanted to help people. Everybody. It's, oh yeah, that's all I've always wanted to do. And then somehow like 5 years out, you're like, man, people are just really bothering me. Like every time
super salty.
you're super salty and you're like, is it really the people or is it the system that you're embedded in that's making it difficult for you? And you just didn't know that was going to be the system. And it's a surprise. So if you had a better idea of that and how to navigate it, instead of, hey, put your head down, just do this. So go ahead and branch out, start talking to people, look at policy. We have one of our fellows is in DC right now, like meeting with legislators. He just texted, he's like, all of this is fucked up. I'm like, yeah, do this. But
How did you get him to agree to do that? It's crazy.
I don't know. He wants to.
Yeah. Like I'm a policy person. Like I used to work with clinical policy people. Like they exist. But again, it's this interesting thing where I very much believe that like everybody is just, we're all trying to speak the same language, but we get siloed, right? Like you guys talk your doctor stuff. Like you don't want to see me and my girlfriends talk policy. We're so excited. It's like Sex in the City and it's like the most boring policy. I'm talking about like California budget and like
California budget.
But to me, it's an interesting thing where like we all have different interests. We're all good at different things. And it's bringing the different perspective and learning how to speak that talk. But I don't know. I think all the stuff that we're doing is fun. I think that it's really cool that you get to have fellows and you're teaching them that I think so often people really associate themselves with this career, this job. And I'm a generalist by heart. Like, sure, I love my compliance, but I also do a little bit of marketing. I also do a bunch of random stuff. And that's what makes me happy. And I think that we have so many physicians and clinicians burned out because they're like, I'm sick of the business side, to your point, Dany. Like, I just want to provide care. But maybe I also want to do a little TikTok, or maybe I also want to go and do some local politics, or maybe I do want to have a shirt line. I don't know. But to me, I think that's the whole part of as we grow, you get to try these different things and see what you like. And it slowly gets you on that path.
Yeah, no, it's growth. A lot of us as clinicians, just you wanted to do something very hard because you probably thought it was going to challenge you and force you to grow deep down inside. And then if you run into a wall where you feel like you're not growing anymore, that's why people get burned out and they leave. No, 100%.
Yeah. It's amazing how this new environment and this new method does challenge you, especially once you reach a certain part in your career. You stay on the hamster wheel or,
Okay.
do something different.
Or jump off.
A lot better off than on.
Nope.
It looks like we're close to time. Dude, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
One last question.
Yeah.
Back to your intern self, July 1st. And
Yeah.
if you go back and tell
No, back to your match day. Back to your match day.
Oh, I just saw that photo. Yeah. I just saw that photo. Yeah. My sister sent that to me.
what would you tell this person?
Oh man, what would I tell him? Gosh, that's a good question. What do you mean? Like me looking back right now to tell him or
Yeah.
telling him about the future
Whatever.
steps?
Open question. Just, hey, he's right in front of you.
I say, hey man, you did all right. I'll tell him that. Okay, that's probably what he's wondering. He's like, did I do okay? Yeah, man, you did all right. I think that'd be the first thing. I'm like, because him staring at me would probably freak him out. I'll bring the tension down a little bit. I'm like, we did okay, dude. I'm not here to warn you.
We need to kill John Connor.
Yeah.
No, none of that ish.
Yeah, man. It's called Skynet and it's coming.
I helped create it.
No, I taught all the residents how to use it. So don't do it. Nah, man, I'll tell him we did all right. But probably the best advice I've gotten was just be intentional. And I'd probably tell him just continue to be intentional about what you're doing, which is very hard. And that requires saying no to things. I'm still struggling with. That's one of the hardest things. But just be as intentional as you can because it's hard. You want to explore things to just get yourself out there, but you also want to stay focused to some degree and just make sure you're doing things that you like. I will throw an extra thing in there. I wish I would have told my old self to read Paul Graham's essay of like how to do great work. And I think that is a phenomenally written essay about just exploring, thinking about what you want to do. It's very concise, but very well thought out. And I think it opened a lot of little brain cells for me down the road. And I've been able to share that with some of the fellows and residents and stuff down the road, and even some students, like high school students. And I think it just lays some good foundations out. So I'd probably tell them to read that and see if anything changes. Probably not, but we did. All right. We did all right.
Awesome. I'm looking up this essay too. It's not that long. 80.
It's really good. It's really good. Really good.
Hey,
Yeah.
Phoebe, is there any last questions you have before we break?
No, just thank you for coming on and sharing your perspective. I think that one, I've always been just like really impressed by you for just your story, but also just like you're really young, dude. You're so young. You always push yourself. You're always like, I feel like you just have that like growth mindset, and that's why you are so comfortable in this space when so many other physicians aren't. They say they like the growth mindset, but they don't really like it.
Yeah, and you implement it in such a successful
Yeah.
and positive manner. I think the way you approach things and the inclusivity that you have, is that a word? English is my second language. But in just how you are so easy to work with and willing to just share your knowledge, it shows that you're cut out for this. And sky's the limit, man. Thank you for taking the time.
I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, it's all about just people and connection. So being around you guys and just knowing y'all, that is a big part of how I am here, right? It's
Yeah.
just seeing how hard you work. Like I'll talk about Phoebe to other people just randomly. I mean, like she's probably working on an idea right now. I was like,
That's true.
no.
Yeah.
I hopped off the call with you, Leo, like way back. I was like, yo, I just spoke with Leo. I don't know how many companies he's working with or how many he started at this point, but I need to make sure we circle back with him so we can get him on board to work out with him as well too. So I just tell 10 more people about that on my team. I'm supremely blessed to be around just amazing people. So like you guys. So thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah.
Just to add to your point, because you made the comment earlier, I completely agree with it, by the way, which is I think in other countries, they focus more on the community side. And here we are like kind of siloed. It's just really weird. You're a competitor. No, you're a competitor. We can
Let's get it done. Let's do it.
Yeah.
nature is like it is helping each other and partnering on stuff. Like sometimes like I can help get Leo an opportunity and like it has nothing to do with me. Like it helped. I'm just trying to help. And
Yep.
it's this really interesting piece where when you do find like the right little community and you are able to take the perspective of learning and growth and like mentorship and just like talking, like I talk to Dr. B at least once a week. I don't know what the hell we talk about, but once a week on the phone, just chit chatting. And like, I have to have it now. I'm just like, I'm sorry, you didn't call me this week. Where are you? Are you on vacation? But to me, I just wanted to go back to that because I think that is another like really important thing where I think so often people don't focus on the networking and the partnerships and the just being a good human. Everybody's very transactional these days. And I think,
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, that's been one big thing that I've just really focused on in the last 5 years. And I feel like I have a very blessed, fully, I get to work with Leo. What's better than that?
It's awesome. Yeah.
There's a lot of things better than that. Trust me. No, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Dude, Dany, thank you for being part of this community. Thanks for being a friend, man. I'm going to say it, but thank you so much for being there and being able to learn from you today. Yeah. If anybody wants to join, talk to us, connect with us, info@telemedicinetalks.com, Phoebe at telemedicinetalks.com, Leo at telemedicinetalks.com. Dany, if anybody has questions about, you, for you, etc., is there a good way to contact you?
Yeah, I'm LinkedIn. It's just my name, Dany Accilien. Feel free to connect with me. Last name's Accilien. And then it's Dany with one N, so Dany. If you find somebody else with that name, please let me know because that'd be weird. But I think I'm the only one. But it's also Dany.Accilien@RelyMD is probably the easiest email to reach me at as well. If you ever have any questions or, any point, I'm open to anybody.
No, thank you so much. Wealth of knowledge, dude. Hit him up if you have it. Thank you so much. I totally appreciate it. And tell everybody that's listening, see y'all next time. Mahalo.